Will you please welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bobby Healy.
Bobby, thanks very much.
Thank you.
So I won't be my characteristically honest today, because my PR guy sitting in front of me and told me all these things I'm not allowed to talk about. So I was asked to speak about, my journey, me, and I'm going to keep it pretty brief about the businesses that I've built, and then show you a little video, a promo video on my current business, Manna, and then we're going to do a Q&A. It's much more interesting to hear this from a Q&A, sit-down perspective, rather than a one-way thing. So I'd really encourage you all to be thinking about it now and get your questions in now, because we'll run out of time and you'll be thinking about it. So look, me, I'm a startup guy. This is my fourth business. Just a correction, it was actually in the 80s, and I didn't design the games, I wrote the games. Back then, there was no such thing as design. In fact, product didn't exist until the last decade, and I've been doing this for 30 years. It is a disease, as I always tell people, starting up businesses and making the sacrifice, or asking other people to make the sacrifice for you, including your family. It is a kind of a sickness, and I'll never be able to explain it. And when I'm 51 now. I started Manna when I was nearly 49, 48 and a half. And I actually did question whether I had the energy in me to do another business. I had done a video games company in 1986 or 87. That failed. We ran out of cash. Then I created a business called Eland, which is an airline middleware business, which I founded in Mexico City, of all places. And I ran that for 12 years, and then I sold that business. I moved it back to Ireland actually in 96, grew it quite a bit in Dublin and in Letterkenny, and sold it. And it was a really difficult slog. It was always growing, it was always profitable. We never needed to take on investment money, which was actually a mistake, not a measure of success in my view. And anyway, I did that, and then I hung around for 2 years gardening, learned all about, roses and that kind of stuff. And then I, joined Car Trawler, which was this kind of a seed company at the time. It was actually a car rental company with actual, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of them, cars, they're called. It's a capital intensive, awful business to be in car rental. But like any good idea, if you can wrap it in technology or a virtual layer of innovation in software, you can really build a business on that. And Car Trawler, again, I ran that business for 14 years. I'm still on the board of the business. We've been very, very lucky, with the team that we've hired, the people that we've brought on. But most importantly, and this is the biggest one, timing. We chose our timing through not intelligence, just through dumb luck. We were ready to do our next gig. This was a good idea, but good ideas don't work without the right timing. And we got really, really lucky with the timing. The strategy that we had come up with was valid, not just from, the start of the business, but it's valid the whole way through the 14 or 15 years that the business has been running. We've been really lucky that we haven't needed to pivot. We haven't, gotten it right and had to adjust, along the way. From day one, our strategy was apt and fit for market, and our go-to-market was very clear for us. So Car Trawler has and always, will be an execution-led business. In other words, about building on the team and getting growth through growing your team of people and staying focused about what you do. And again, there's loads of things. I don't say this lightly. We didn't make many mistakes in Car Trawler, but the ones we made were around hiring, around the people, particularly the senior level that maybe, didn't fit in with our culture. Or weren't up to the grade. And it's really, really, I think Debbie said it earlier on, it's the hardest thing to get right. In fact, it's nearly impossible to get hiring right. And I would say I'd be lucky if I met someone I didn't know and I hired them. I'd be lucky to get it right more than 1 in 5 times. But I'm good at recognizing that people can be fixed sometimes with good leadership, or otherwise to be swiftly moved on. And that particular exercise and that skill has been probably one of the most important executional talents that we running the car trawler team had. In other words, ability to hire, ability to grow and nurture people within the organization, and the ability to move quickly, to make decisions quickly. And I was speaking to someone else earlier on, and we were talking about the difference between big companies and small companies. And I'm happier in small companies. I'm happier in teams of 50 or 100 people, where I know everybody's name. I can go to them every single day, sit with them, learn from them, and help them. But as you grow, of course, that's impossible. And for me, the most difficult thing in growing a business is maintaining the culture. And I don't use that lightly. I'm not new to this game. It's not my first rodeo. Culture is a pretty new word. It didn't exist when I started 30 or even 20 or even 10 years ago. Culture is a new concept in organizations, relatively new anyway. And it's absolutely critical. And that actually is the hardest part for me in scaling. It's not access to capital. It's not building the team is hard, but maintaining the culture which drives efficiency, communications, camaraderie, excitement, energy, all of these things that make the business successful in light of all the other difficult obstacles. And that's the hardest part. And when I think now, again, this is my fourth startup, so it's not like I should know what I'm doing now, but I'm super uncertain about how to make sure that I have the culture right as it is now, and how do I guarantee that as we take on our next round of investment and we grow, bring in 10, 20, 50, 100, 200 new people, how do I keep that momentum, that energy, and that positive forward movement going and keep everyone rowing in the same direction? It's really difficult. So look, I'm going to show you the video now. So this is my new gig, as they say. We're a startup, so we don't use investors' money unwisely. So I used my wife and kids for this, and Bernard Brogan. I wasn't good enough looking to sit beside my own wife in the video. So if you could roll the video there, Colette. So that's the technology. So from start to finish, that's what we've gotten done in 12 months with the $5 million that we've raised. We have a little bit left, enough cash for another 12 months. But that's what we've got done. We will launch in the middle of next month in Dublin. We can't obviously go to Cork for safety reasons. But we're incredibly excited about it. You will be able to go to our launch destination. You'll open your normal food ordering app. You'll order your chicken chow mein or whatever it is that tickles your fancy. You'll get a notification saying the drone is taken off. We're on our way. We'll be there in 2 minutes, 20 seconds. The aircraft flies at 80 kilometers per hour at about 40 to 80 meters, depending. When we get to you, we hover overhead at 80 meters. You get a notification saying we're overhead. Please accept delivery. When you hit the accept delivery button, we descend to about 10 to 15 meters. We hover there, as you saw, and we lower the food down. Total maximum flight time is 3 minutes. Average is 2 minutes. The food stays outside of the aircraft for about 6 seconds. There's a Facebook thread going on at the moment with about 500 people in Tala talking and thinking that we're starting off in Tala. We're not. I'll say that for the record. But it's all about Seagulls and how they're going to capture the aircraft. So maybe we should go to Cork actually. But anyway, look, that's just an intro. We're going to, take care of the really interesting parts in the discussion now. Really encourage your questions. Questions make this kind of thing work. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby, we'll pull that chair around there. So I'll stay over. But we'll go in the middle here so the people can see us. So Plankis, twist that one round a small bit.
Just one.
Yeah. I have many questions, it's fair to say. I do a lot of business interviews, but I've never interviewed somebody who's introducing drones to
who insults the whole of Cork as well.
Who insults the whole of Cork, not once, but twice. But I need to go back. The inner child in me needs to talk about Nintendo games. What Nintendo games did you write?
So I'm a programmer. That's my trade.
Yeah.
I still am. I wrote Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Running Man, the video games for the movie titles, and a bunch of other, really good technically games, but absolute pure drivel in terms of playability. But the worst games you'd ever seen.
One of the few people I'd imagine in Ireland doing it at that time, I'm guessing, were you?
Yeah. It was just as Atari kind of pulled out of Ireland, and there was an IDA-backed company in Waterford that I worked for. I actually got an actual job for. It's the only job I've ever had, actually. And, it was just incredibly exciting. I was 17 years old. It was best work, technical work I've ever done. Still the most fun as well.
This is your fourth startup. You said it a minute ago. Yeah, I was listening. Part of me always wonders when I speak to serial entrepreneurs.
Oh God, I hate that term.
Yeah, I know it's an awful phrase, but you are. It's like not quite a serial killer, but close. You keep doing it, and you know the long hours, you know the stress, you know the pain. You know all the issues that are going to arise, yet you do it again.
I don't see that. I don't see it as painful. It's not stressful. It's not painful. It's highly enjoyable. It's what I want to be doing. So it's actually the sacrifice that sometimes you bring other people along the way, particularly my family. I mean, I've lived in, you move to where the action is. So for me, I've lived in Mexico, I lived in the States. You follow the business action, wherever that happens to be, right? So in this case of Manna, we're building it here in Dublin. It's, great tech resource here. So we build it here. But the moment the business scales and becomes really up there, I'll have to move me anyway to the States, and that's just reality. That's a massive sacrifice, but not for me. It's a massive sacrifice for everybody else in my life.
Everyone around you.
Yeah. So it's not painful. I don't think it's stressful.
How do you square that with those key people? How do you say, look?
They know when they're getting on board what they're getting into. Always the case. And, people that I hire or people in my life, they know what it's about. And, it's always a conversation, but you can't compromise on what's right for the business. I mean, that sounds awful, but you can't. You just have to always go to where the action is.
What was the genesis for Manna? I mean, people have been talking about drones for the last couple of years, whether they're going to work, the restrictions that are there. I mean, the most likely conversation you're going to have about drones in this country is whether or not an Egypt flying them near an aircraft is going to cause a problem.
Yeah.
Yours is a different take on it. And it's one that instantly is one of those ideas I can see that working. How did you come up with it?
It was just like anyone else. You have core technology, which is drones. Drones are commodity tech now. They're easy. And then you have the online food space, which I kind of know a little about. And then I'm sitting in my back garden, and a couple of glasses of wine. Libero's chippers down the road from me in Ballantyre. I know them well down there. I'm allowed to go there once a month. Love a bag of chips. And thinking, that thought process is, this, drones can actually do this. I could actually, and I wrote a bit of code. I used the DJI SDK, and just to see what it's like. And it's just incredibly simple to build, lightweight wrapper around that technology and make it be a mule for you, make it do something, which is in this case, go to the chipper, pick up a bag of chips and come back. That's not a stretch. That's really easy to do. So if you apply that basic construct, and if you say, what's that look like at scale and what market do you apply it to? And you look at the online food market, the Deliveroo's, Just Eats and so on. Those are giant, very, very well-backed businesses that suffer from single or negative digit margin businesses that need a logistics solution. So like for me, it's obvious.
Yeah, but again, these drones, presumably, while they're cheaper than they would have been a few years ago, they're still not cheap. So I mean, you're still working on a tight margin.
These things that we've built are very different. They're very unusual. So they're quite large. You know, they're the size of a Labrador. You know,
if a Labrador could fly.
I try to come up with cuddly, kind of associations. But they're big. But most importantly, they're aviation grade. And what that means is that there's 3 flight computers. There's 8 different motors. It can fly in only 4. There's a parachute. There's redundancy and hardware critical items that's unusual. So it's very expensive aircraft. But at the same time, we believe anyway, it's highly capital efficient. We think that, it probably pays for itself fully in less than 6 months. So it's
6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the lifespan of the machine?
Unit economic, well, it's like a sweeping brush, right? You just keep replacing the head or the handle and it lasts forever, right? You can tell everyone's age by whether they respond to that,
I can understand that, Joe, absolutely.
But it's a maintenance thing. So if you look at the capital cost and then you apply a maintenance cost, so you maintain it just like you would an aircraft.
You mentioned the States. There's an obvious market for this, which is the United States. You're trialing it here in Ireland. How quickly are you going to have to scale this? I mean, you're going to have to get big quickly if you're to prevent competitors, because there will inevitably be competitors looking at this and wanting to, borrow a phrase, eat your dinner.
Yeah, no, like I've always, that's where team comes in, and me and my team, we've built businesses before that are in, in theory, crowded spaces with big competitors, well-funded competitors, and a good team can manage that, and a good team can work against that. We're starting off with a big advantage. We have a great advantage being here in Ireland. We have a far lower cost base. We have far better access to talent, and we have an aviation regulator that wants this to work. If you go to the United States now and you try and build this business, you won't be allowed to take off, like metaphorically and literally.
So you're proving yourself in a different market first?
Well, Europe is actually way ahead of the rest of the world in terms of drone regulations, aviation regulations. So, and the IAA, after my little thing about the chipper, Liberos getting the bag of chips, my next step was to meet the IAA. And I met the IAA and they had open arms. They said, Bobby, we were wondering when someone would come in here wanting to do this. And they're ready, and they've been engaging. They're really receptive, great partner. So that actually is a structural advantage that we have here that doesn't exist in the United States.
There are loads of questions coming through on Slido, so let's go to them now. How did you get a US-based lead investor for your seed round?
So I think I'm good at selling the vision. I think that's something I learned by myself a long time ago. I think the business stacks up on itself completely. The metrics, the economics, it all looks really good. It's a gigantic, absolutely gigantic, problem we're looking to solve. But there's a big question mark over, just like, it's just mad. Does anyone here believe that chicken chow mein is going to be delivered by drone and not by some guy in a 3-ton car that weighs 200 pounds that eats some of your chips, that asks for a tip, that checks out your wife, right?
You sound like a man with bitter experience.
What's matter? The way
How
we
many
do
of your
it
chips
now,
do they eat?
Yeah, and the maximum delivery time is 2 to 3 minutes, and when you see that, when you observe this thing, you'll all be able to see it next month. You can come along, you can order your food, and you can see it. When you see the thing coming up, and it's silent, it's totally silent, and it flies up, and it hovers, and it comes down, and it delivers the food. Like, it's as much a circus as you've ever seen, but it's practical.
You're swimming in a particularly deep tank, and listener here, with companies like Amazon and Google looking at delivering this kind of tech, how do you tackle the issue of huge competition? I mean, are we going to have a sky full of drones delivering all sorts of stuff?
No, you won't have a sky full of drones. If you look at existing demand and you multiply by 10, you'll still have less than 0.1% of the airspace used by drones. So that's not an issue. And a drone in the air is the same size as a seagull. So it's not going to be interruptive. It's not going to change people's lives. It'll change their lives on the ground because they'll have access to everything in the local economy within 3 minutes. And that's going to change consumer behavior. It's going to change the opportunities for small retailers and local communities. It's going to completely change the dynamic of online food and all sorts of other things. But largely, it's only going to change life for delivery drivers. They're not going to have jobs. They're not going to be risking their lives breaking red lights to get your food to you as quickly as possible. So it's just going to be better for everything. It's greener, it's safer, it's quiet. Everything about it ticks all boxes.
Again, a classic Irish question. How do you plan to use drones using the super good weather we have in this country? I mean, are they windproof?
Yeah, so they're wind and rain proof. Weather is difficult, but it's not difficult to design. Like, that aircraft can fly in today's storms. no problem, right?
What about your dinner? Is it dangling coming down?
No, that's fine. Yeah, it'll dangle a little bit, but sure. Otherwise, what's going to be in the box in the back of some Deliveroo cyclist? You know, I mean, what do you think is better? It's far better. We'll be able to deliver coffee with the foam intact and piping hot.
Graham asked the question: is attitude and ambition more important over skills that can be learned?
Attitude is the thing, not ambition. Everyone should have ambition. Attitude is the thing, and that's less about me than my team. And if I were to, you know, it's for me the biggest thing, right? So aptitude obviously is important, but aptitude without attitude, nothing. Attitude with lesser than great. Aptitude is you can work with that.
This is a good one. Do you think you'd have been able to get VCs on board pre-launch for Manna if you hadn't the track record that you have right now? So in
Yes.
other words, you had 3 under your belt. You still think you'd have gotten them?
Yeah.
Why?
So the only advantage I had was they'd read my email. And I would start it off with, my last business is worth $1 billion. I'd really like to talk you through my next plan. You know, and like you have to kick doors open, right? But there's still, I don't get any more credit, I don't think, than otherwise. There's when a VC or an investor calculates the risk, the ultimate, you know, they try to use as many numbers as they can to make it objective. And then the subjective evaluation is, you know, gut feel, what do we think it is? And then gut feel, what do we think of the team? And that I have an advantage in, but it's not the best thing.
How are the drones powered? I presume they're battery, are they?
Battery, yeah.
So they're environmentally friendly as well?
Yes, no CO2 at all.
How do you avoid collisions with seagulls and electricity poles and trees?
That's actually much easier. So we have LiDAR, we have radar, and we have detection in the air of any object that's not supposed to be there. We know about cooperating aircraft. So in other words, if there's us and Alphabet or Amazon, we all coordinate with each other. But if there's some, you know, dummy that went into Harvey Norman's and bought a drone and they're flying around, we can detect that too.
Okay, well, I've lost 2 drones in my career so far. So
I've lost 3.
3, well, there you have it. What happens if a seagull tries to steal the food? Again, they're very clever seagulls in Dublin.
Yeah, they are.
Try this in Balbriggan, you'll know.
I don't think
all
I'm
about
worried about the seagulls at all. I mean, the food travels inside the aircraft. It's only outside as it lowers down for 6 seconds. And it's inside its packaging. So you're far more chance of your neighbour, you know, something like that. and again, I bring you to Cork. You know, we have this thing where you have to acknowledge receipt or the thing's hovering will wait for you to acknowledge that you're there and that you want the food to be lowered down.
So you have to acknowledge it, otherwise
Yeah.
does
And
it bring
if
it
you
back?
don't, if you have 5 pints and you go home, you order a pizza and you pass out, well, that's great. We'll fly out, we'll wait a little while and we'll fly back and you've paid. Thanks very much.
Okay, so the food is already paid for at that point. How many drones are you going to need? I mean, that's a very valid question. I mean, to scale this business, you're going to need lots of drones.
I'll give you the numbers. In the UK market is the one that we have the best data on. There's 750 million takeout orders a year in the UK. That's growing at about 20%, of which a third of them are online. And of that third, about a third of them are delivery and the 2/3 are non. So if you model that 750 million, you take 10 to 15% of that and you apply the growth that we think happens when you do 3-minute delivery, you get to 44,000 drones.
44,000?
Yeah. So we think...
At a cost of how much per drone?
So if you just take a nice round number, because it's easier mathematically, you take 10,000 euros per drone, you need about 500 million euros just for the 10% to 15% of the UK market.
That's a lot of money.
The prize is much bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other part of this, like you mentioned your local chipper, but like how are the drones going to pick up all that food? Are they going to have certain points at which to deliver to, or how does it work?
Well, there's different answers to that. The immediate answer is we'll only work in dark kitchens, which are centralized kitchens that we control the safety and we manage everything. And then a large, high throughput restaurant, so think a big Supermax or something like that, right, where you can control 3 car parking spaces. You cordon them off, and it's all, the restaurant doesn't need to change, the people don't need to change, it's just Manna on top of that. Later stage, we'll do robotic battery changes, robotic food.
We fed these people early, so there's lots of very intelligent questions coming through. Won't the props on the drone cool the food down? I mean, this is important if the curry comes cold.
I'm just going to go ahead and say that's a stupid question.
Fair enough.
The food is in the drone. I mean,
I presume that's in an insulated little box.
So we're releasing that video in public tomorrow. You'll all be able to look at it.
Well, I think you committed on Morning Ireland this morning to delivering breakfast to
I
RTE.
did 4 minutes. Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
How accurate is the GPS? Could my neighbour get it by mistake?
So we use a system called GPS RTK, which is accurate to the centimeter. But so in terms of positioning, it's incredibly accurate. Like I could deliver probably on top of that table.
Really, to that.
The problem would be, side wind. So we can deliver in a 30 to 50 kilometer an hour
It's
side
no good
wind.
in the roof.
Sorry?
It's no good in the roof.
No, wouldn't be any use on the roof. So the accuracy is incredibly strong, but GPS is unreliable. So a 1/10% of the time, GPS just completely puts you in the wrong country. And in that case, we use computer vision to understand where we are.
So how many people have you got on this team right now?
23.
23. How many are you going to need? I mean, this company has infinite potential.
Yeah. So we're R&D now, right? So nearly all of our people are just aeronautical, mechanical, electrical, and software engineers, and then there's a bunch of them around operations. So when we go live in Dublin, we need another 5, 10. So it's small needs. But when we roll out, so I want to roll out Ireland. I want Ireland to be the first country on the planet that gets pervasive drone delivery, absolutely everywhere except O'Connell Street, right? Because there's no delivery footprint there, and maybe Cork as well. But the rest of the country. The rest of the country, I really see, early next year, the first worldwide real commercial, footprint of drone delivery to be in Ireland. And it's perfect because if we can get Ireland working, it's a small market, but it's material enough to show what the thing looks like.
You're ramping this up even in 12 months now. We're going to see these drones in the air delivering people's hot dinners.
You're going to see 3 or 4 different projects from us this year that are bigger and bigger each time. And we're working with the IAA. This is I won't say the hands of the gods, but it's down to how well we do with those projects that gives the IAA enough confidence to let us go for it full hog.
4 in. Have you another one in you after this, do you think? Or are you going to eventually buy a nice house somewhere with a swimming pool?
So you have to say it's going to be 10 years, right? And when I look at a 60-year-old person now, I say, Jesus, I don't want to be doing this when I'm 60. So I think it's, if this works, right, this is such a high-risk business that, it's going to be either gigantic or nothing quickly, right? And so if it's going in the gigantic direction, that'd be great. And you have to think that that's going to be it for me. I mean,
Can I ask you, all the people who are in this room, 127 different businesses at different stages.
It's a very binary number.
It's a very binary number. How would you advise them on the most important thing they need to do based on your experience? What's the one thing above all other things that they need to do to head in the right direction?
So I can tell you the biggest mistakes I've made, which is not to trust my own gut, to second guess myself based on people that are incredibly smart themselves and well experienced, well referenced, but just because you're the one living it, you're the one losing sleep over thinking about every single detail of your business, and you're the one knowing how every atom lines up, and then someone else just as smart but doesn't have the full picture tells you, no, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. My biggest mistakes have been around listening and going against my own intuition and making the mistake because I'm not blaming the other people, I'm blaming myself because no one is ever as qualified as you are to make those decisions. You take their input as a signal, but you don't just let them completely reverse your decision. And that's been my biggest mistake. My other piece of advice is around networking. That came up a bunch of times. Networking has absolutely been crucial for me throughout my career, more so now than it ever has been, not just from access to investors, but just everything is, my network is my most valuable asset, I think. And so you should be always allocating a big chunk of your time to networking for hiring, networking for, thought leadership, promotion, all that kind of stuff. And then networking, obviously, that all flows through to raising capital.
Okay. Biggest mistake you made, what was it?
It was in people that I hired, the wrong people I hired.
Yeah.
Most damaging mistakes, definitely.
Yeah. But you got over them, and you're here today. You're talking about 10,000 drones, and God knows where it's going to start.
A lot more than that, hopefully. This industry is going to work. I have zero doubt that the future of last mile delivery is in the air. There's absolutely no question about that. The question only is timing, and that makes or breaks good businesses. and there's nothing you can do to fix timing other than keep dragging it along.
Well, I think that Enterprise Ireland should note the date, and we'll have Bobby Healy back here in 10 years' time as he's launching his new business, Manna having been a tremendous success, and it'll be the next time that we're having the same conversation. But God knows what it'll be at that point. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Healy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good
Thanks
job.
so much, my friend. Thank you.